typically one. So it's a good place to go if they want to avoid that here.
Yeah, only one very specific cheese comes to mind. Other than that, you have to kind of go out of your way with like busting out like a Zool Rag all-in wave clear comp or something to really try to cheese the map. Pretty safe pick from teammate. Getting a little spicy in the draft chat here between the teams, so I think at this point, teammate is feeling like they're the stronger team. They can win as long as they're able to keep the games fairly standard and straight up. And the question being, now that Gale Force is in their heads, is Gale Force going to continue this cheese barrage? Or I think my particular opinion on this is that they had some cheeses planned, but they're using the uncertainty and the mental damage from these cheese wins to perhaps get more draft value than they would otherwise, and then attempt to play somewhat standard while teammate is worried about all sorts of cheeses that they might potentially face.
I'm dying from cheese barrage. I just imagine just cheese being thrown at them. Oh, that was perfect. Perfect way. Again, perfect statement from you, Cawthon. It's enough that it's made teammate be willing to sacrifice first pick so that they can make sure and get things like Greymane, right? Just to make sure that they can go to the battleground. So it's obvious that at some element, at least, Gale Force is in Team 8's heads. It's just, is it enough to be able to throw off their level of play?
I think the biggest thing is Gale Force doesn't need to be in teammate's head. They only need to be in Glorung's. And if they can do that, that really is going to be a lot of the core with the rotations like we even heard Fan talking about, because it's the micro focus with the shot calling. That makes Glorung that much more of a carry for this team. And if they do manage to get into his head, which is obviously they're halfway there, I feel like this game is going to be showing when it comes to his play specifically. And if he seems to crumble, the rest of the teammates quick to follow.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense considering that in Game 1, they reset his Masters touch stacks. He was having a hard time being the Medivh for his team, even though they did win. And then in the last game, some times of getting caught out, some frustrations with the shot calling too. Do you agree with that? That's the main thing to get inside of Glaurung's head, if that's the game plan for Gale Force, is to tilt them?
Yeah, Dread brings up a good point. This teammate is far more micro-oriented in their shot calling than most teams. Not necessarily a good or bad thing, but that's how it is. So one player being on their game or off their game has much more of an impact on the rest of the team than you would normally for most teams.
We'll be getting into the draft for Tomb of the Spider Queen, Game 3 shortly. We know that Gale Force eSports in the past has played some double support style strategies on this battleground. Are you expecting the same?
I hope not. That's all. I do not want to see double support throughout the rest of playoffs whatsoever in North America. I hope they avoid it.
Any additional thoughts?
Hey, if we're going to see two supports, I say just show three. Like, keep it to a normal game or just fully commit to some sort of support cheese. Go 3 plus a hyper carry and make it interesting.
What about teammate for Tomb? What kinds of drafts, what kinds of picks? Is it just same thing once again, some Leo, some Greymane? I
feel like a lot of it is going to be it, yeah. Teammate is the most flexible, non-flexible team, I think, it's hard to explain them. They have a lot of just absurd levels of comforts and a lot of small, specific synergies that they really enjoy using. And when they get them in the right circumstances, they are nearly unstoppable. But when you focus on those, it's not even a full comp. It's just like the Diablo and the Medivh. It's the, what used to be the Miranda. You could never let the two go together. And I think as long as Gale Force still stabs at the small, very already clear priorities for teammate, it still will be. It doesn't matter the map, doesn't matter the cheese, it still is going to be in their head.
How important is it for teammate to win this game in particular, Cawthon? Because they have sacrificed first pick, they're taking them to Tomb of the Spider Queen 2, knowing what is left in the Battleground pool, that there's still Battlefield at least as a possibility. Do you think it is a must-win for teammate at this point?
I think teammate really needs to win this game because they've already sacrificed the first pick, which is huge. So they clearly think that GFE has some sort of additional specific cheese strategy waiting for them. And they're usually tailored to a specific map, so taking the map here is an attempt to avoid it. However, if they just lose a somewhat standard game to GFE because they gave up value in the form of first pick, when they go into Game 4 at a 2-1 deficit, they're not going to know what to expect at that point.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point that you bring up, that it's like, it's change after change after change, and then it gets to a point where it's just too much to be able to handle. Oh, man.
Now I wonder if Gale Force tries to go back to the same kinds of strategies that they did in Game 1, where they block a lot of the hero pools again, or if they feel like that wasn't enough. They were ahead. They were ahead in that game for a lot of it.
I would love to see Gale Force just flat out pick a very teammate-focused hero. I'm trying to figure out who that would be with Greymane gone. On Tomb of the Spider Queen, my first fear would be something like a Gul'dan for the wave clear, but it doesn't.
That too.
And do you think that deny would be? It just doesn't feel like it has the oomph I want out of this type of pick.
I think it's good for Gale Force, but I don't think it's necessarily good against Teammate. I feel like Teammate is very comfortable against Gul'dan.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. And so that was why it pulls away from favor. Eventually, the Leoric has got to be a hot topic here in this draft.
Might just see a Malf or something solid that doesn't commit to a particular playstyle. I feel if you first pick that Gul'dan, you almost have to commit to a medic later to get value early, because Teammate is so good at playing around the Gul'dan with their portal engages and their Chromie. Deciding to pick it up, I think this might be playing into Teammate's strengths here if they're able to get the Medivh.
2 fast picks makes me think so.
So, Gale Force knows. It is wrong to assume that Gale Force is not prepared for this by this point. It's 2 games deep that they've just been like, well, you're doing what we expect, and then they bring in their own version on it. So I'm reserved at this point. I'm just going to be like, I put my faith in Gale Force that they've got a reason that they let those go over to Teammate.
I think this might be, I mean, Malf is still up, so Malf can also work with the Gul'dan. If we don't see Malf picked up on these picks here, I would expect another meta game from Gale Force. Teammate, with those quick snap picks here, is saying that we're really not afraid of you in the situation. You've started out with a fairly standard pick that isn't part of many cheeses, and so we're just going to snap pick our comfort heroes and dare you to play us straight up, even though those 2 heroes are never taken with this much draft value.
Muradin Malfurion, so no double supportness yet, which is what they did last time on Tomb. Got their 2 supports and their primary damage healer, which was Vala, by the time this rotation had ended. But Muradin has been a favorite of Gale Force as a warrior. They have some Malfurion roots to back up, as well as Innervates for Gul'dan to help with his mana.
Neither team really has the best solo by any means at this point.
I think we're going to see a high priority on Leo coming out of this ban phase here as a strong solo, strong wave clear. I would really expect Gale Force to ban it out, or if not, for a Teammate to just snap pick it as soon as it's available.
Yeah, I don't think there's a world, at least in my brain, there's no world where Gale Force does not ban Leoric this game.
Ooh, they are expecting the double support.
No way. Man, the trade-off of the Chromie into the Gul'dan and the effectiveness that they've managed to have with the Chromie so far, it's like that pseudo skill matchup of that, well, I mana tap, so then suddenly I'm weaker to the Chromie, will I end up dying? But I just don't feel like that is going to have near the impact in this game as having the Leo, more comfort picks, more difficult targets to be able to kill with this Medivh and Diablo already for Team A.
It's a rough situation here. We know that Team A would love to run Leo and Chromie.
Yes.
And so it's really just coming down to which one Gale Force thinks is going to be more impactful against them. Chromie is somewhat of a soft counter to Gul'dan, since you're able to poke him way more effectively in the early to mid game before those straight-on 5v5 team fights start.
It's a little bit, too, that prismaticism with Greymane, Chromie, Gul'dan gone, it's hurting more of that person, specifically versus with Yoda. He still has Dahaka, even though Leo is a far stronger choice on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Surprised that Leo hasn't been quickly picked up, but Leoric and Nazebo.
That is a absurdly powerful 20 for Team 8 here. Their composition, it's just terrifying. It doesn't do too well in the early parts. It's got a reasonable amount of wave clear itself, and it's got a lot, more than anything, a lot of comfort there for the Medivh Diablo, adjusting and Glorong together are just unstoppable.
All right, so these picks are very important for Gale Force. We've seen the way that Nazeebo comps can be punished, thankfully, in the last day or two.
Yeah.
And if they've been listening to me ranting and raving about not sitting passively on the map when you're up against Nazeebo, then they won't let me down here with these picks. And we'll pick something that can both put on the pressure and siege effectively. Tychus is a hero that comes to mind, able to do both.
Well, we see it. I agree with you. I would love to see something like that. We need to see some kind of early game focus here for Gale Force eSports, but not necessarily leading to this team's strengths, you know, on a smaller map especially. They go with the Tychus, and it's backed up with a Genji into already a high health pool, very tanky, very survivable composition. And they say, we don't care. We want ourselves Genji.
Not bad. The Tychus, I think, was really key to punishing this comp. The early game power, the wave clear his Q and the W provides, the fact that he can Odin for that structure damage. Tychus, fantastic pick. Genji, I feel like, was more of either a comfort pick or a, like, looking to do something specific to pressure either Glorung or whoever was playing Nazeebo. But I do like the way that Gale Force responded, knowing that they have to do something aggressive against the comp that Teammate is showing.
Teammate rounding out their draft with Rhaegar. I know that Buds is extremely happy that he gets that hero. When I was watching the live scrim between Tempo Storm and Teammate, there was a point where he wanted to play Rhaegar, and Glorung was like, you can play Rhaegar next game, you can play Rhaegar next game. So I know he's excited that he gets to bring Rhaegar back in action. I've got to look at Genji versus Rhaegar and Medivh. He doesn't have any sort of divine shielding to keep himself safe. So does this change up how our Genji player has to approach this match?
I think he's going to be very aggressive early. I think even though he doesn't have the normal tools to keep him safe, he's going to feel like you always have that ticking time clock on you when you're facing a Nazeebo comp, and I'm sure the Gale Force is a quality team that is aware of that. One thing I'd like to look for is even more aggression from Genji early than you would expect. Rhaegar is likely to do camps very early, around level 4 to 6, try to get pressure with Ogres and then Knights into the first turn-in, and I expect Genji to try to contest that.
Well, we're getting into the game. Thank you, Cawthon. We'll talk to you after the game, see how Gale Force approaches this Genji game. Dread, are you thinking it's an X strike? Sometimes we've seen that as a mobility option, especially if he gets caught in Entomb potentially, or even thrown back to the team from Diablo.
I'm torn. Like, my first thought goes, there's not enough burst healing. There is not enough reason to be able to go into the Dragon Blade. But X Strike, I feel like doesn't have enough damage to lose. Oh man, the root is going to be peeling off of Mike Udall. The zombie wall is going to connect though. Justin taking so much damage. Force of Will keeps him up, and somehow Akka gets the last tick heal. Everyone is fine in the skirmish. But I was saying with the sustained damage versus the burst, against those warriors to go X Strike, it just doesn't feel like it's going to have that kind of damage to really finish the deal and get one of those kills. Typically, sustain would be more effective there, but again, no survivability.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to if Fan feels he needs the mobility because of all of the displacement and lockdown, especially things like after he's used his trait, then you could come in if he also doesn't have his Swift Strike, maybe catch with Entomb, and he feels like he has to have that one more mobility option, but Dragon Blade also gives some mobility, so maybe it's enough for Genji to try to make sure that he can get the resets for himself and start to get kills, because otherwise Medivh will have Force of Wills pretty consistently to stop those.
And Gale Force has done a good job so far in this game of, you know, looking commanding here up in the 4-man. I guess it's a bit more of a 3-2 here for these teams. But Gale Force, the fact that they aren't losing their game is going to be crucial, not only for the late game team fighting of Team 8, but just, again, their wave clear and their laning phase, they have no solo, not a dominant solo at least, only having the Tychus there. And Gul'dan is really the only thing that can really complement their 4-man so much, so I was rather afraid with this draft specifically that we would see Gale Force only slightly pull ahead and then quickly Teammates' late game prowess would come online.
Yeah, you've seen them extra posture, watching for rotations too, and being able to keep Fan on that Genji in the rotation spots and doing just enough damage to maybe keep Team 8 more at bay than they necessarily need to be, has put them in a position where they're pushing the waves into Team 8's gates more in the top and the mid, but we know Leoric is doing work in the bottom, so it's important that Gale Force can do that.
Justin goes in, gets the flip onto Mike. No zombie wall dropped. It's going to whiff, but nice body blocks here onto Justin. Gets the perfect portal on out there. That was legitimately, not only with it came to the distance, but the fact that he dropped the portal in both fogs was about as perfect as that little thing could have gotten there. Just nice and cozy.
It's good to see that Glaurung is being there for his team with the first force of wills that were able to keep Justin alive, and then that amazing portal to keep him out of danger. Because we talked about it, we talked about his mentality. He has to be able to reset from that annoying loss on Chris Hall in the last game.
Yeah, and even game number 1, I guarantee that win did not feel great for Team 8. Maybe in the sense of getting the win and not being down in the series, that feels good. But not when it came to their play itself. Fan should have his ability to dash out. Yoda actually falling so low. Will we see Fan going to commit? No, Equinox doesn't get the setup there. They're going to be a bit more patient, a bit more reserved.
So 23 gems turned in so far for Gale Force eSports. They're getting close to trying to be able to secure the first Webweaver phase. Meanwhile, no turn-ins just yet for Team 8. They have been behind in the wave clear, the rotations between mid and top, which has meant that they can't as easily get to those turn-in points, and Gale Force going back and forth with them can just drop gems off as they go.
Ooh, I thought for a moment there Genji getting the upper hand in that skirmish on Glaurung, but he's going to be all right. The rotations for Team 8, just always a step behind Gale Force, but again, that is all relating to the wave clear here on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Equinox has gotten a couple of free stacks there on that Perfect Storm. That's about the 4th, just, oh yeah, no, I'll take that. Thanks for the free damage there.
Yeah, and I was admiring him slowing down the rotations again. Glaurung nearly went down, has to back. And nobody quite in position yet here in the bottom lane. A lot of members showing up there from Gale Force eSports, maybe unexpectedly for Team 8, but now Leoric is back in action. But still, Gale Force well on the way to being able to get the first Webweaver phase.
Team 8, they haven't lost gems. They're even in the gem department. Just very little effort has been concerted towards getting that turn-in itself. We have ourselves the very first Webweaver phase of this game going over to Gale Force eSports. And again, with the late game power spike that exists here for Team 8, every turn-in is going to be so important. Gale Force wants a little bit of everything. Structures, maybe a couple of picks, but most importantly, opening up the map.
And the more Team 8 can posture and stop Gale Force from getting that Glaurung, that was scary, but a beautiful cleanse over the wall from Buds.
Well, so it was actually really good concerted effort from both sides. So they both stay close to the wall. Buds just says stay close to the wall because that's the only way we can get the heal and the cleanse over the wall. So Glaurung doing the proper thing to keep himself alive, and then Buds also staying the wall to make sure he helps. It was just teamwork, you know?
The synergy of Team 8. Webweavers pushing down the lanes. Top has no ammo in the tower, so there should be some takedowns of towers for Gale Force.
Gale Force hasn't committed all members there, though. They have, Genji just remaining up on bot. Again, it's been a very heavy 3-2 split for both of these teams. But the front wall has been obtained. A small advantage here for Gale Force eSports.
Is it enough to stop Team 8 from turning in, though, before? They have great positioning again. It's Equinox, so he can always dwarf toss out. But Gale Force are not very close to heroic abilities. They also don't quite have enough gems for a second turn-in. So if Team 8 could possibly get the turn-in here, then they could try to nullify that. Maybe even get some more structural damage done.
I would say that this game feels more of like Team 8 doesn't have an early game and has a really good late game. Oh, wait a minute here. Nice Storm Bolt. Ooh, not going to land there. Portal from Glaurung gets him out. But it's like, you know what I mean? It's not that Team 8 has they don't have an early game. They don't have a bad one. The lack of is different than having a poor. And so I felt like because they just don't have the early game and Gale Force, and they have such a good late game, it's been more of Gale Force has to cause a problem in the early parts of the game. So the fact that this is, it's not like teammates making plays, but it's more that Gale Force isn't, and that is a problem.
Maybe they can change that with heroics.
They might be able to, but I do think that it exists right there between heroics at the 10 mark and the 13 talent tier. And if we don't see some kind of positive skirmishing, some trading and abuse of having a player like Fan on Genji, it's not going to work out for Gale Force here.
Speaking of Fan on Genji, Dragon Blade was the heroic choice. Everything else by the books for Gale Force eSports. This is the time where they would love to be able to force something, a turn-in, a kill, a huge team fight before teammate would get heroics. Even though teammate now have their heroic abilities, there's still time. Master's Touch only halfway done before teammate can feel the full force of their aggression and throw that at Gale Force eSports. Teammate doing their best to stop the second turn-in for Gale Force eSports.
APOC has been the choice here for Diablo and Polybomb. For Glarong there on the Medivh. We got ourselves the APOC and Entomb, though. So much hard crowd control out of all those heroics here for Team 8. But Gale Force, they've gotten enough gems. They've managed to stall out long enough to where they can turn in themselves. So who is going to get this secondary Webweaver phase? If it goes to Gale Force, they got to get something. They need these structures. Crowan's got the channel, and they've got the Webweavers.
Pursuit of Flame done, Widowmaker's done. A lot of teams, both teams finishing off a lot of these quest talents. 10 stacks still needed for Master's Touch though. How much does Gale Force get done here? They have used just about all of their bank to make this Webweaver phase happen. So it is so, so important. And they didn't get a huge amount done with the first one. Once
Portal
again,
in, portal out. The Webweaver's up. Top's going to start pushing in. Gale Force is at least keeping the members of Team 8 attentive here in mid. There's the Odin, the siege force that Cawthon was talking about before to make this early game be all the entire game, really, end as quickly as possible for Gale Force eSports. But that mid Webweaver already falling so low. Justin questioning if he wanted to go in. One of the beauties. Oh, that's a miss Horrify.
yeah, that Horrify whiffed on Team 8 now. Entomb comes in, doesn't catch anybody. Just off to the side, Yoda chasing back Mike Udall.
Gale Force just needs to buy a bit of time, though. The bottom Webweaver is still technically alive as it goes down, but you know, we see that up here above as well. They got at least a little bit of structure advantage. I just feel like, I mean, maybe that wasn't the best approach, obviously, to a fort there.
Yeah, the fact that they used Odin, they used heroic abilities and didn't get picks, they didn't get this mid fort. They only got the 1-4 up in top. It's gotten Gale Force eSports something, right? They're halfway to 13 and Team 8 has just gotten to 12. But looking at only having 11 gems out of the 60 needed, and Team 8 hasn't turned in a single time yet. They are sitting on 109 gems with 30 turned in. So once they get that first one, Gale Force has to be scared.
They very much need to be. Glarong sitting so very close at finishing up those Master's Touch, actually just completed. So now having that tool is going to help the team fight of Team 8. Another resource. You know, when we talk about the late game power spike, it wasn't the Master's Touch. Polybomb used on the Equinox, but he does get the Dwarf Toss out. He's going to be okay for another rotation. But again, you talked about it. Those Webweavers, or the gems that they have for Team 8. When are they going to get these in?
Yeah, the best thing for Gale Force is that it's scary to fight when you are holding so many gems. And Justing is one who has 45 alone. Oh, Prismaticism's going to get caught by a root, but the cleanse is there, so is the portal, and he gets out, so does Justing. The zoning from Gale Force is awesome. They have kept Team 8 from both of these turn points for a very long time, but Team 8 is about to get 13. They can't lose Yoda, though. Quick Wraith Walk, make sure that he does not get lost.
Keep in mind, Nazebo's not yet at that point of destruction. He gets beefy at 13. He becomes deadly at 16. You regret playing a game against him at 20. Oh, Yoda actually getting that channel. A Webweaver phase will be unlocked for Gale Force eSport, or excuse me, for Team 8. The Horrify used once more. Glarong on the back line just taking so much damage. Fan actually got a reset. He's dashing, diving, and doing so much damage. Equinox going in, trying to get Justing. That's 47 gems.
Oh no, and that is nobody in position to even pick those up, really. As I say that, though, Gale Force moves down to get the kill, and Prismaticism jumps in to grab as many of those gems as he could. A Leoric kill. This time they will guard those gems, but this means that the Team 8 turn-in will just about amount to nothing.
But they still have enough gems here for Team 8, even after losing some of those members, for a turn-in immediately after this. So that is something that has to be on the back of Gale Force eSports' minds after they've rid of the rest of this Webweavers.
Can I just say that Fan on Genji is awesome?
Yeah, it is actually pretty dope. With the plays that he was able to make there, I thought for sure with the Horrify being, you know, leaving something to be desired, really, and everybody being so split up, I didn't think there was any way Gale Force was going to have a positive impact in that fight, but all set ahead by Fan.
It was a good Entomb too, but Twilight Dream bought some time for the members in that, and then after that, Fan was just ripping through all the other members in the back. Justin and Yoda taking some damage. Portals there, though, to get Yoda back.
Gale Force can fight in any lane but bottom because of, look at the Force situation. That is the only lane that is bad for them to fight into because the distance to safety is so close for teammate and it's so far for them. The Polybomb with the Horrify buys a bit of time. So much damage. Buds goes down along with Glorung. 2 members deleted. Gale Force, they want more.
Twilight Dream has spelled the end. Diablo's down. 3 kills for nothing. And now Gale Force eSports, yes, they were fighting in a lane where teammate had a fort, but maybe using the damage that they have to be able to siege down this fort.
Yeah, they're going to be able to do that and back it up with the Web Weavers. And you know, right as I said that, it's just the least optimal lane for them to fight into was because, you know, if that fight happened in any other lane, for instance, Leoric and Nazebo probably won't survive because there isn't that fort to retreat to.
There's nothing to retreat to, but here's the start of the fight. Again, a lot used, but they couldn't take down Fan, Cleanse, and Horrify after that. Twilight Dream wrecks Team A, Gale Force eSports, with a strong start to this game.
You know, on second glance, you suddenly realize that that zombie was not as much, not in the spot that maybe Prismat originally had intended there. Wasn't able to get it down fast enough, and now Team 8 is struggling. They don't even have the 16. They've got the Web Weavers stomping on the in, and Gale Force here is pushing up through the mid lane. They've dropped Odin. They want the keep. Last time, they didn't get as much out of a Web Weaver phase as they wanted. Let's see if they will this time.
Geez, Prismaticism has 60 gems. Portal and immediate roots underneath. Justin steps in and says, that's okay, I will leave now. Never mind.
The Web Weaver sieging up, it's just going to be buying time. Teammate needs to be able to, or Gale Force needs to make sure they can keep teammate busy here. They aren't doing necessarily the greatest of job. Top Web Weaver now falling below the 50% threshold. They're just kind of dancing around, not taking another front wall. They could have predicted this rotation in top. It's pretty clear when it's the only Web Weaver what happened to bottom keep wall. There is no pressure. This is the biggest difference between Tempo Storm and the rest of North America is that right there.
This gives 2 levels of time for teammate to figure it out, to get back into the game. They have 60 gems sitting on Prismaticism. He can single-handedly get the turn-in for Team 8 to start the comeback. It's just a matter of getting these waves pushed in a way that they can get to those turn-in points. They're clearing out the wave, they're getting mercenaries in the mid so that they can push that middle lane. It's the important one because you can posture back and forth between the 2 points.
Gale Force grouping up on bottom, trying to dump any gems you can. It's at the point in the game where even if you have one, like Akaface, it's worth it if you got the downtime, just store it away, put it in the bank, not risk losing that because this is the part where you get desperate for win conditions, especially for Gale Force. They've committed to like what is 3-4 turn-ins, it feels like at this point, and they have yet to even get the keep. They have no win condition, and now Team 8, they've got their own Web Weaver phase. They've got the 16 power spike. Gale Force has to be almost surgical with not only their decision-making, but their rotations at this point in the game.
But remember, if they can win the fight, if they can clear out the Web Weavers quickly, there's a boss available in a lane where damage has already been done. It's all about this moment for Team 8 and Gale Force, the defense for Gale Force, and taking the momentum back for Team 8.
The Auric is moving out of bottom while Genji is still showing himself on bottom. So this is 5 members of Team 8 here on the upper part of the map, but Gale Force still down Fan, the playmaker of that team. Leo's just going for a bit of side soak. They are not going to force anything. Justin goes in.
Went in, there's a portal there too, he's going to take it. Equinox is there on the other side to welcome him with the Stormbolt. No force of a fight for Team 8. Unless they're pulling back right now and trying to catch people, Gale Force will have 20.
They have another turn-in available, whereas Gale Force is Got about 10 more gems before that's going to be a thing. The channel is there. Bud starts it, but it gets interrupted. Fan gets pinned against the wall. He has no protect. The polybomb's used. Horrify lands onto 3 people, splitting out Yoda, but that gives him a perfect entomb.
Oh, and there's the follow-up Apocalypse 2. Akaface dodges it with Ice Block, gets back in, but Justin is not done with him yet. Picks him up, throws him against the tower. 2 kills for Team A.
Give him the suplex and establishing dominance. Team A is fighting back here with the late game power spike. They've got the 2 picks. They don't have the experience advantage. They don't have the structure advantage, but they do have themselves a boss. And a Web Weaver phase conveniently right behind it.
Get the boss, get the turn in, hopefully get the 20 and win the video game. They have been so far behind in this game, but this is the point they knew they could achieve. Getting Nazebo to his late game, getting Leoric to his late game.
We see Murden scouting there. That's Equinox. He's got 20 seconds before Malf and Genji. It's 1 delay, and that's about all they've got. They portal in. They're going to go. Polybomb dropped immediately. He knocks him into the zombie wall. Alden's booting, bouncing all over the place, and now that his Tyke is down, but Glorom gets immediately responsibly deleted. Beautiful and ancestral onto Prismaticism.
Justin is going back into... Justin doesn't even need another team once he gets his devastating charge stacks going. He gets another kill. Fan is back. Equinox is falling. He's already used Avatar. Justin dives back over for Fan, knowing his team can deal with the rest of Equinox.
Equinox's heal kept him alive. Yoda Wraith walked in, the Storebolt lands, and that's the zombie wall missing. Buds is all alone. He's stuck between the zombies saying, please help me, team. Fan goes in, the bolt, the Twilight, and it misses. What happened?
He's stepping his way to safety now, but Yoda goes down. That's 35 gems.
Gile, what happened?
I don't even know.
Things were going to plan, and then all of a sudden a ruckus just started.
But look at top for Gale Force.
The boss, it's okay. At least it's already dead. That's one thing we got. So recollecting ourselves, where do we find ourselves after all this?
Status check time, let's go.
20 to 20. So that's even. Gems, we've got to turn in soon-ish here going for Gale Force. Only about 10 behind that, more like 20, is going to be Team 8 available for the turn. And there's no boss for a long while, but Team 8 does have themselves the first key.
They do. Win one more fight, and they can take this game back. They can get ahead in the series. Yoda will be back soon. And importantly, again, we've talked about it, level 20, although we don't have Spectral Leech for Leoric, instead making sure that he gets Hardened Shield, but of course, Vile Infection is already more than ready for Prismaticism to start dishing out the damage.
All right. It's going to be easy picking here of the clearing of the night camp. Dragonblade got so much value in that last fight. I don't know if you watched Fan intentionally trying to stay only onto the melees and just max range hit them with his dash, but he had, it felt like an eternity there with the Dragonblade. Justin goes in, letting Equinox know to check himself before Justin's the one who wrecks him. Nice dash out. Gale Force, you can see they want it, but they don't. They're just like, is this the time? Is this the time? No, it's not. All right. Web Weaver's over to Team 8. We've got a game on our hands now, Gilly.
Yeah, I love the style of play that Fan has with his Genji. He's got Pathfinder, so the mobility there. And then with his cooldown reduction of Swift Strike, and then of course Dragonblade, you can see him just constantly all over the place. The minute he feels like Dragonblade can get value and start to get himself resets and kills, cleaning up for the team, the new janitor even.
Ooh, Justin goes in, the portal is late. Entomb is used, but it only blocks him. Fan goes in, that's a 4-man Horrify. The Protect saves Buds, keeps him up, but he drops the Ancestral, but he is dead. Buds is down.
Fan starting to dance all over the team. Leoric's down too. Diablo getting low. These Force of Wills throwing the best.
Oh!
Justin uses the dive in, portal out, stays alive. 3 survive for Team 8. Now Gale Force has to immediately turn their attention to the Web Weavers.
Gotta get all these red speckles on the minimap off, otherwise that could just do way too much damage. But Gale Force won that fight after what looks like a beautiful portal initiation once more from Glarung and Justin from on bottom, with the whipped Entomb and mixed with, look at Fan!
And the Horrify. The Horrify was money. It put the team so far apart from each other that Buds could not, by himself, keep everyone alive until Glarung got back. He had to run clear across the fight. Glarung at least got this great Force of Will and the portal to let Justin juke and jive all over Gale Force, but still, the win of that, and now there are plenty of gems for a Gale Force turn-in.
Gale Force has a turn-in available, and teammates nowhere near it, just not even close. They finished the turn-in here up on top. You can see Glorong actually abusing his 20, trying to set up this bottom lane as as useless as a web weaver as you can possibly get, all the way back there against the keep. Maybe a little bit too far to where he lost the wave, but he's got the Giants. Those will be able to deal with this. So now that Gale Force has the web weavers, they got to do something with it, Gilly. We've seen this. I've seen this spawn before, and nothing usually comes of it.
Yeah, this is later of web weavers, but still, the prepping of the lanes was ideal for teammate. The bottom lane was great. The top lane is good too. The mid is where Gale Force will find their siege. This gives time. They buy time for teammate to sit in this lane, and the top will slowly push its way onto that keep. Odin's been dropped, Dread.
Odin has been dropped, so is the zombie wall. There's going to be a portal for Justing as he takes it back out, but immediately, look at this web weaver, dude. That thing just did nothing. The Giants have crippled the bottom one to half health, but Equinox taking so much damage. Polybomb is going to be dropped on him, but he keeps himself up, but the Polybomb swaps back to him. He buys the time. Somehow Equinox is alive here. Another portal drop for Glorong, but they're just trying to force this fight.
The big deal for Team 8 now is that they have gotten through both Twilight Dream and Horrify, even Dragon Blade 2, and they have not lost a keep.
Doesn't matter how many web weavers Gale Force has, no matter how many gems they have in reserve, Team 8 knows how to deal with it. It all starts with a portal from Glorong and an initiation here from Justing. Just this duo, these heroes together. It seems like Team 8 has just brought it to another level in all of North America, is struggling. The boss is now going to be started. Gale Force doesn't know it started, but they've got pretty good idea. They're all rotating out. Glorong hovering above, making sure that they see anything and everything, because this is it.
This is surely it, but Akaface has been caught. Polybomb too. He can't. He gets out.
He's got bolt. He's got bolt. He's going to be fine. He should be fine. He's self-healing. He doesn't have it. He's down. That is the support. And look at Equinox. He's so low too.
He doesn't have Avatar either for 20 more seconds. This should be it. Ancestral Healing keeps Justing alive. Team 8 not looking for any more kills. They know the support is gone for Gale Force eSports. This boss looks ripe for the taking.
Horrify just came back online though, so we've got that. Odin is here too. Equinox taking the stuns, getting flipped around. 30 gems. He is dead. Fan dives in and gets the reset on Yoda. Justing portals out. He's got no HP. The boss is reset, Gilly.
Somehow, some way, Gale Force eSports are keeping their lives in this game. But it is only just. They have no Malfurion still for 25. They were getting low in health, and their frontliner is gone. Yes, Team 8 lost somebody, but it was just Leoric. They're going to go back on for another attempt at this boss.
The boss is started, and no one on Gale Force wants anything to do with this. They aren't even questioning moving that far out onto the map. It's a 25-minute boss, Gilly. There is no front wall. There are no turrets. There is no keep to stop this.
Gale Force bought time for Malfurion to be back. They need 15-ish more seconds, and then they'll have Murd, and they have to take the fight outside of it.
They have to take this fight far away from the core as fast as possible, as effectively as possible, and insta-gib a minimum of 1 people if they are going to not lose this game. But they are going to try. Fan and a Bolt Twilight is the only way I see this happening.
Hasn't happened yet.
The flank? Look at it!
Look at Crowan!
He was trying to flank and they sniffed him out. The sight coming up from Medivh on the Glorong. Oh my gosh, that gets him the first pick, and I think that's enough. This should be it.
Twilight Dream was there. Horrify too. Fan is ripping through all of Team 8, but the boss is on the core. The shields are falling. Fan has been dealt with as Justing throws him back over to the team. Genji is down. Akaface low. The core is falling. There's no way to save it now. Only one has been taken out for Team 8. It's just not enough for Gale Force. Team 8 take our Tomb of the Spider Queen game
and find themselves 1 game away from qualifying for the mid-season brawl and being the 2nd team to represent North America.
That game was insane.
That was insane. It was exciting.
A little back and forth. Just when you thought that Gale Force was going to put it away, they played the game so well between levels 12 and 19. They didn't get much of an early advantage off their turn-ins or the spiders, but they built up a 2-level lead, are about to get 20, push their advantage, take the keeps, take the boss, maybe go for a death push, and then they got caught at 19.8 and killed and chained deaths for the next minute and a half. They needed about 10 or 15 more seconds of patience, and they probably could have ended the game before Nazeebo got 20. But then Nazeebo got 20, and you think the game's over too, and then you have Yoda entombing his whole team into a small area for the fattest Horrify NA from Michael, and he brings the game right back to an even point, and man, that was just madness.
Yeah, that game was nuts. I am so hyped for our next game that I just want to get right to it. Let's go to a break so we can come back and see if Teammate claims it or if we will be going all the way to Game 5. See you after this.